3 days before the extreme cold apocalypse, my best friend and I bought 2 stones from an antique stall. She gained access to a pocket dimension. I gained a supernatural charm. My best friend looted a supermarket and hid everything in her pocket dimension, but when her secret was exposed, the group tied her up and used her as a human pantry. Meanwhile, with my unparalleled beauty, I attracted the admiration of all the opposite sex in the team and became the group's darling. I took advantage of the team going on a mission to untie her ropes, hoping to escape with her, but my best friend laughed maniacally, dumped the entire stockpile on top of me, and crushed me to death. "This is all your fault. You chose the power of supernatural charm and left me to suffer." When my lungs were crushed, I was reborn on the day I went shopping with my best friend. "This time, I won't leave either power for you." While my best friend Wang Lily was still laughing heartily beside me, declaring that she had finally been reborn to make her choice, quickly biting my finger, I broke the skin in one swift motion. I dripped the blood onto 2 pitch-black stones. Almost the moment the blood soaked in, an endless, vast space appeared in my mind. As for how my appearance changed, I paid no attention at all. I had taken both powers only to stop my best friend from using either one against me again. With such a large space, I no longer have to act coy and ingratiate myself, living by others' whims like in my previous life. As for my best friend, how naive. Having been reborn, who would still settle for choosing between 2 options? Only a fool wastes time gloating. After she calmed down from the immense joy of rebirth and prepared to bind her ability, she discovered that the 2 stones had already shattered. I put my hands in my pockets, amused by her stunned expression. "Xiang Qing, you've also been reborn, haven't you?" My best friend lunged at me, grabbing my arm and asking frantically, "If I say it's not you, would you believe me? Time is running out. If you want to stand here wasting time arguing with me, I'm not going to stick around." With only 3 days left, even with the space, I could barely stock up on supplies. There was no time at all for things like renovating the house. I had no time for a melodramatic confrontation with her. I shook off my mentally unstable best friend. I took a taxi to the car rental company and rented a van. Although the space could store supplies, I still needed to keep a low profile before the apocalypse to avoid causing panic and drawing investigation. After renting the car, I drove directly to the largest nearby agricultural wholesale market. I still have over 2 million in available funds. A large portion of that is the money my parents gave me to buy an apartment near the company for my commute convenience. Thinking of this, I made a video call in the family group chat. Even though it was a work day, Mom and Dad answered the phone right away. "Qing, weren't you supposed to go look at houses today? Found a floor plan you like?" Mom asked with concern, and Dad was listening attentively too. "Dad, Mom, what I'm about to say is very serious. You have to believe me. In 3 days, the extreme cold apocalypse is coming, and it will last for at least a few months. I'm on my way to stock up on supplies. You all hurry home and find a contractor to do the renovations. Do as much insulation work as possible, don't be stingy with the money. Also, I've fallen out with my best friend Wang Lily. She's been reborn. In her past life, she killed me. Now she's not right in the head, don't believe anything she says. And one more thing, don't let anyone else know about the coming extreme cold. I'm afraid it will put our family in danger." I told my parents everything in one breath. If there's anyone in this world who trusts me unconditionally and would never betray me, it's them. Seeing that my expression wasn't joking, even though concepts like the extreme cold apocalypse and rebirth were beyond their understanding, they still chose to believe me. My parents took only a minute to digest what I had said. Then they immediately took leave from work, told me to stay safe outside, and said they would contact the renovation company right away. And they thought more thoroughly than I did. Dad said that since my best friend was also reborn, she was a dangerous person and couldn't stay in a place she knew about. Mom, worried that we wouldn't have enough money, took the lead and listed the house, originally worth over 4 million, at a rock-bottom price with the real estate agent. Considering safety and privacy, Dad suggested using the remaining savings to rent a bomb shelter in the mountains and hire people to reinforce it. Bomb shelters are naturally cool in summer and warm in winter, with plenty of space, making them ideal as refuge bases. I believe my parents can handle the infrastructure on the home front well. I hung up the phone, parked the truck, and walked over to the stall to start shopping. Beef, lamb, pork, chicken, fish, and large shrimp, 500 pounds of each, please. I also bought quite a few ready-to-eat foods. Cabbage, potatoes, radishes, spinach, cilantro, and other vegetables were all purchased in quantities sufficient for 3 people for 2 years. Considering that my mom enjoys gardening, I also bought a lot of seeds and planting pots. And I didn't forget basic condiments like soy sauce, salt, and vinegar, as well as some pickled vegetables. The most essential staple foods like rice, flour, and coarse grains were also bought in bulk bags, almost as if clearing out the entire vegetable market. I also bought other necessities for an extreme cold apocalypse, such as cotton quilts, drinking water, down jackets, charcoal, hand warmers, toilet paper, and toiletry sets. Considering that after the extreme cold, heavy snow would cover everything, base stations would be damaged, water and electricity would be paralyzed, and cell phone signals would be lost. I also purchased emergency survival gear like shovels, candles, walkie-talkies, batteries, solar charging panels, radios, compasses, and maps. After ensuring my basic living needs were met, I bought a bunch of novels and board game entertainment supplies. I also remembered that in novels, the female protagonists in apocalyptic scenarios stockpile cat litter for using the bathroom, so I stocked up on some as well. Anyway, the space was large enough and had a preservation function, so I didn't have to worry about storage, expiration, or spoilage of supplies. After carefully loading the van, I drove around the area before storing the supplies in the space, then drove back to the wholesale market. When I came out of the wholesale market, there was still over 1.5 million left in my card. There were still medicines, gasoline, self-defense tools, and other items left to purchase. These supplies are difficult to stockpile, so I plan to spend the remaining 2 days gathering them. The night grew darker, and most shops were closed, making it impossible to buy anything. I drove my minivan to the family suite at the hotel my parents had booked to meet up with them. In my past life, I had no idea the extreme cold apocalypse was coming. When the temperatures suddenly dropped, I happened to be on a business trip to a neighboring city assigned by my company. Seeing the weather forecast with a red alert for low temperatures, I just thought it was an ordinary cold snap. Unexpectedly, the next day, a heavy snowstorm sealed off the city. The snow completely covered the shrubs along both sides of the road. No matter how much I raised the fare, no driver was willing to take me back. And so, my parents and I were separated in 2 different places. It wasn't until communications collapsed that we were forced to lose contact. Before the hotel's supplies ran out, a group claiming to be a civilian rescue team found me. As I joyfully went out with them, I saw my best friend tied up in the trunk of the car, with nothing but beauty and no physical strength. I immediately realized what was happening. Meeting these people is the most terrifying thing in the apocalypse. To survive and to rescue my best friend, I pretended to be a pure and innocent girl in front of them. I endured their wandering hands and teasing remarks. I was glad I didn't tell them the location of my parents from the very beginning. I never expected that the best friend I went to great lengths to save would regard me as an enemy. Fortunately, in this life, I not only have a space to gather supplies but can also stay with my parents to face the extreme cold apocalypse together. Dad, Mom, I'm back. After a full day of non-stop work, I had no energy left to dwell on those troublesome people and matters. Seeing my parents again, a mix of grievance, excitement, joy, and shame, so many complex emotions, made me burst into tears. But my parents looked at me with a strange expression. Oh right, I now have the effect of my supernatural charm, so my appearance has long since changed dramatically. Back when I was barely a 7 out of 10 with makeup, now I can debut as a star even without any. I awkwardly explained to my parents about how I had seized opportunities after my rebirth. Ching, you did nothing wrong. Being merciful to her is being cruel to yourself. My parents were pleased with my growth and did not hold back their praise. No matter how your appearance changes, it will never change the fact that you are our daughter. My nose tingled with bitterness as I hugged my parents tightly, sobbing until I choked. The feeling of being together as a family was truly wonderful. Silly child. What's there to cry about? As long as mom and dad are here, even if the sky falls, it won't be your turn to hold it up. Mom pulled out a tissue to dry my tears, patting my back to help me catch my breath. All right, stop crying. Dad felt terrible seeing my eyes red from crying, blaming himself for not protecting his daughter well. I told my parents about my stockpile list to check for any gaps. Ching, if it really happens as you said, snow sealing off the city, then we should buy some skiing gear, as well as lifeboats and assault boats. A heavy snowfall is sure to be followed by a major flood. Dad was sharing his thoughts, and I took out a pen to jot them down in my notebook. It wasn't until my stomach started growling that I realized I hadn't eaten anything since the afternoon. There happened to be a barbecue restaurant still open downstairs from the hotel. My parents and I tidied up a bit and went downstairs to grab some barbecue. Eating the fragrant lamb skewers again, I almost screamed with happiness. Glancing at the vibrating phone, it was another unknown call. Wang Lily really never gives up. I've already blocked her contact info, yet she still finds ways to harass me. Ching, you wouldn't want your secrets to be made public, would you? If you don't want me to expose you online, find a way to give me back my ability. In my past life, I only killed you out of jealousy, but I never expected you to be so ruthless as to steal my ability. The apocalypse is coming soon. How am I supposed to survive without my ability? You're practically trying to kill me. You know that. I stared speechlessly at the text message from Wang Lily, silently cursing her as an idiot. She killed me by accident, and yet me letting her off the hook is somehow forcing her to die. Some people really are that hypocritical. So what if I don't have any special abilities? I already know in advance that the apocalypse is coming. Even without space, stocking up ahead of time can allow you to live more comfortably than ordinary people in the apocalypse. I recall the words she said before she died in my past life, and I find them laughable. She only saw the sweet talk those men gave me, but turned a blind eye to their indecent behavior. When even a bite of instant noodles or a sip of water had to be exchanged with her body, she still regarded it as flirtation. I remember when we were in college. All the guys who wanted to get close to me were blocked by her. She claimed, under the guise of friendship, that we should find love together. In high school, under the pretext of claiming she was worried I would start dating too young, she tore up the love letters in my drawer. Everything leaves a trace. I was foolish enough to wait until I lived another life to see her true colors. Ignoring the messages, I happily enjoyed barbecue with my parents. I pretended to be a mukbang streamer, ordering nearly 20 portions and asking the owner to deliver them upstairs. The barbecue here tastes great, perfect for stocking up to satisfy cravings later. It wasn't until we left the barbecue restaurant that my mom asked me, puzzled, why I ordered so many skewers even though we were already full. I'm not blaming you for wasting money, but wasting food is shameful. Ching. I gave a mysterious smile and, after confirming there were no cameras in the hotel, stored all the freshly delivered skewers into my space. Mom and Dad stared at the skewers that had vanished before their eyes, too shocked to speak. Even though I had told them about my supernatural ability, they had only heard about it. Experiencing it firsthand was even more surreal. Dad, Mom, my pocket dimension ability can not only store things but also keep food fresh. Whatever goes in comes out exactly as it was. The supplies I stored this afternoon are all in the space. I don't want to keep secrets from my closest family. My parents shouldn't be kept at a distance. Ching, this is incredibly useful. Even if Mom and Dad are no longer around in the future, we can rest assured. I immediately cut her off. Don't say that. You're both going to be fine. Although your space is very useful, we still need to keep some supplies outside. In case the space disappears one day, we won't panic too much. Although Dad was also very excited, he still reminded me, your father is right. We can't rely entirely on the space. I raised my hand and swore that I would use the space wisely and not just sit back and do nothing just because I had special abilities. With my parents by my side, I slept surprisingly soundly on my first night of rebirth. After breakfast, I continued driving the small van to make purchases, while my parents completed the transfer procedures and took the money to find a renovation company. Driven by the power of money, the renovation company dispatched a team to work in shifts, ensuring that, based on the existing materials, the air raid shelter would be optimally renovated within 30 hours. The renovation workers reinforced the overall structure, added seismic brackets, repaired cracks, and carried out soundproofing and anti-seepage treatment. The entrance is even equipped with multiple sealed doors, offering protection against radiation, fire, and theft. A hidden door was left as an emergency exit. Filtered ventilation ducts were installed to prevent toxic gases and dust from entering. The living area and functional area are separated. At Mom's request, hydroponic facilities were added to the planting area. The renovation tools also come with a diesel generator and plenty of diesel, as well as a first aid kit and commonly stocked medications. While my parents were busy with the construction work, I headed to the extreme sports specialty store. I bought 10 sets each of skiing and diving gear, along with a good number of lifebuoys, inflatable boats, and kayaks. I also visited several pharmacies to purchase enough medicine and health supplements. Since each person can only purchase up to 40 liters of gasoline per day, I had to go door to door in the neighborhoods near the gas station to promote my request. By offering laundry detergent and eggs as incentives, I paid a premium for others to buy on my behalf. Although I was turned away by a few households who thought I was a scammer, the outcome was good. I managed to collect a total of 2,000 liters of gasoline. In the end, I bought quite a few highly lethal tools at a hardware store. On the way back, I passed by the flower, bird, fish, and insect market. Living creatures cannot survive in the space. But the bomb shelter has a place where they can be raised, under the owner's gaze. As if looking at a fool, I bought the fish tank and replaced the ornamental fish with edible crucian carp and grass carp. I also bought 6 meat rabbits and 20 quails. After the supplies were purchased, I began to focus on the quality of life. Dad loves to drink, so I bought some. My favorite junk food, milk tea, and cola. I bought Mom's favorite pastries and cakes. I bought them all. I squandered over 1.5 million until only 3,000 was left. When I returned to the hotel, my parents were still supervising the construction in the bomb shelter. I pulled out a pack of cucumber-flavored chips, opened my tablet to download various movies and novels, and scrolled through my phone with my legs crossed. When I opened the short video app, the first thing that popped up was a video posted by Wang Lily. In the video, her hair was messy, her eyes were red and swollen, and she looked especially haggard. She tearfully complained about being betrayed by her close friend, who had stolen her supernatural ability. She even claimed to be able to predict the future, saying that the apocalypse will arrive in a day. To prove it, she announced that she would live stream the following evening. Is this blogger reading too many novels, going on about the apocalypse and superpowers? If you can predict the future, tell me when I'll win the lottery. Blogger, I believe you. I just knew my safe house and stockpiled supplies would come in handy. Prophet, is this some kind of word game? In the comments section, aside from some doomsday enthusiasts, no one else believed what she said. Wang Lily, with a ferocious expression, replied under the skeptical comments. Tomorrow night at 9, the whole country will have a major temperature drop. Don't ask why. This mystifying statement still managed to hook a group of night owls. Brothers, leave a mark. The city I'm in, W City, is a little furnace. The weather forecast shows temperatures will keep rising in the coming days. If the temperature really drops that much, I'll follow her account. Remind me too. Echoed dozens of replies. Right now, I really want to run to Wang Lily's rental place and kill her. With that big mouth of hers, the so-called explosive gossip she's about to drop in the live stream is definitely about me. On my first day of rebirth, I also thought about informing the country. But I am just an ordinary, unknown commoner. Even if I posted an article online, not many people would pay attention, and the chances of being called a lunatic would be much higher. I also had no way to directly reach the higher-ups. Moreover, there are only 3 days left, even if they truly believed my words. In such a limited time, there isn't much they could do, and I would very likely become a target of public criticism because of such an action. Not to mention whether I, with my pocket dimension ability, would be taken away for dissection and research. Reborn into a new life. I am very selfish. I just want to be safe and sound with my family. So, I decided to go see my best friend. After confirming that the ropes and knives in the space were all in place, I dialed her number. Lily, I've thought it over, and I really was wrong. I know how to strip away the supernatural ability. I'll be at your place in half an hour. You must wait for me. Okay. You must wait for me to come and collect you. When I opened the car door, the door frame hit my head. It suddenly occurred to me that since the pocket dimension could only preserve inanimate objects, did that mean that living things placed inside would also die? I looked at the button quail sleeping in the trunk. I reached out and grabbed one, thinking to myself about putting it into the space. Sure enough, the button quail disappeared. Looking inward at the space, I indeed saw the button quail's body. That left 19 quails. So I reluctantly used one more for a second test, leaving an even 18. I took out a wooden stick from my space. This time, instead of grabbing them with my bare hands, I used the stick to touch them. The second quail also entered the pocket dimension and died instantly. Isn't this space a cheating tool that kills invisibly? How stupid was Wang Lily in her previous life to have such a powerful weapon in her hands and still be tied up and used as a granary? My guess was confirmed. I was full of confidence. As long as no one knew how my ability worked, it would be almost impossible to turn it against me. I instantly lost all drowsiness and felt very excited. The original 30-minute drive took only 20 minutes to reach the downstairs of Wang Lily's rental apartment. Wang Lily rented an old, shabby apartment in an urban village, and the soundproofing in the building was poor. Just as I was about to knock on the door, I heard a conversation inside the room. My best friend will be here soon. Boss Chong. I guarantee you'll like her. You promised me, so no backing out. Also, what I said about the apocalypse is real. Wang Lily's coquettish laughter came from behind the door. So, I've already been sold out. Boss Chong was a member of that twisted squad from the previous life. Under the guise of civilian rescue, they loot supplies from every surviving household. The elderly and children are killed outright, and men who refuse to join suffer the same fate. Women, especially the attractive ones, are treated like breeding sows, stripped of all dignity. This Boss Chong is a recently released felon. For someone like him, the apocalypse is nothing short of paradise. I didn't expect to have an unexpected gain this time. I raised my hand to knock on the door. A brief commotion sounded inside, and then Wang Lily came to open the door. Ching, why are you here so soon? Come on in. Wang Lily seemed to have forgotten how she threatened me yesterday, greeting me with a beaming smile as she welcomed me inside. Not planning to call out the one inside to welcome me together, I remained expressionless at the threshold, with no intention of stepping inside. Boss Chong, who had been observing me from the shadows, was already impatient the moment he saw me. Now that he's been discovered, he remains unafraid. He's a formidable figure who evaded capture for over a decade after a series of crimes before finally being caught. What's there to fear from a mere inexperienced young girl? Brothers, the lady can't wait any longer, so let's not be shy. Come on out. With that, 5 people emerged from the wardrobe, the bathroom, and the kitchen. All unfamiliar faces. But if they're hanging out with scum like Chong, what good could they possibly be? I watched a group of people walking toward me with clubs in their hands. The leader, Boss Chong, looked me up and down under the light. First, he looked at my face, then at my figure, and finally at both my face and figure. He nodded with great satisfaction. Brothers, this girl is hot. Let me have some fun first. No problem, right? The underlings wouldn't dare say no. Besides, the boss eats the meat first, and they get the leftovers. That's the rule of the underworld. They stood on both sides like fierce demons, ready to act the moment I resisted. As he spoke, Chang reached out to put his arm around my waist, trying to lead me inside. I sidestepped and casually closed the door behind me. I pulled an iron rod from the pocket dimension and swung it in erratic arcs. Each time the rod touched one of the men, I used it to pull him into the dimension. In less than 15 seconds, Boss Chang and his underlings, who had tormented me for a year in my past life, lay dead in my space. Wang Lili stood by, dumbfounded, unable to understand how I had made the men disappear into thin air. Shouldn't I be the one being humiliated, then tied up and used as a tool for hoarding supplies, just like she was in her previous life? I gripped the iron rod and looked at her with gratitude. Wang Lili's legs went weak, and she fell to her knees, kowtowing to me repeatedly. "Qing, please let me go. I know I was wrong. I won't target you anymore. Don't worry, I definitely won't tell anyone your secret." When a person is extremely terrified, they cannot cry. She didn't realize she was wrong. She was just afraid of death. But only the dead can keep secrets, right? I kindly told Wang Lili. "Aren't you asking me how I made them disappear? Thanks to you. If it weren't for you, how could I have been reborn and obtained the space, and then used it to kill them?" I pulled one corpse back out of the pocket dimension and showed it to her. "Alright, now you know. You can rest in peace." Before Wang Lili could even finish her pleading words, I took her into the space as well. If I left the threat alive, it would only return later. Only after getting rid of the troublemaker did I feel at ease. Thinking back to my previous life, Wang Lili could easily take out supplies and crush me to death. Then I can also collect some items of sufficient tonnage to keep in the space for backup. As long as the venue is spacious enough, I don't even have to do it myself to take care of those terrorists. I drove to the abandoned parking lot. I collected quite a few scrap trucks and cars. In terms of weight alone, a truck's tonnage is definitely sufficient. When I returned to the hotel, I received a message from my parents saying they were taking turns resting in the bomb shelter while watching the workers construct, and they wouldn't be coming back tonight. They also told me to rest well and head over directly tomorrow at noon. I checked the supplies in the space to make sure nothing was missing. When I woke up in the morning, I spent all the remaining 3,000 plus yuan on a pile of breakfast. After checking out, I went to the air raid shelter to meet up with my parents. The air raid shelter was built into the mountain, originally serving as an emergency refuge. Having been reinforced at great expense, it could be described as impregnable. By the time I arrived, the construction crew had already cleaned up the renovation debris, handed over the work, and left. My parents were busy cleaning up. The entrance was spacious enough for me to drive the van inside. I took out steaming hot soup dumplings, soy milk, and fried dough sticks from the space and called my parents to have breakfast. Then we inspected the air raid shelter's facilities. The cave is 3 meters high, 5 meters wide, and 70 meters long. It runs horizontally into the mountain from the entrance. The left side is planned as a living area, with 2 bedrooms, followed by a kitchen, living room, and bathroom. On the right is the workspace, which includes a monitoring room, a storage room, a planting area, and a breeding area. I took out some long-lasting vegetables, dry food, and drinking water from the space and placed them in the storage room. Then, together with my father, I drained the water from the tank, carried it off the vehicle, and installed it in the breeding area. The rabbits and quails adapted quickly, hopping around lively in the enclosure. After our family finished a thorough cleaning, we took out thick blankets and quilts, waiting for the extreme cold apocalypse to arrive. It is now late May, and for most regions, temperatures have already started to rise. In the southern regions, many people have even put on short sleeves and shorts early on. So on the day of the big temperature drop, they were the worst off. Many people slept with the air conditioner and fan on, only to freeze to death. In the evening, after having some home-style stir-fry dishes, we sat in the living room, scrolling through our phones and chatting. At around 8 in the evening, a sharp temperature drop began in Heilongjiang province, plummeting from 3 degrees Celsius to minus 30 degrees Celsius in just half an hour. Then the cold wave kept sweeping southward, crossing the Qinling Mountains and continuing its advance. Even on the southern island of Hainan, the temperature dropped from 17 degrees Celsius to -20 degrees Celsius. People are pulling out the winter quilts stored at the very bottom of their closets, rummaging through boxes and cabinets to find down jackets and put them on, turning the air conditioner to heating mode. I'm watching a short video platform, where on Wang Lily's account, a group of people are calling her a master, urge her to start a live stream, ask her what to do, how long the temperature drop will last, etc. Unfortunately, they won't be able to wait for it. However, thanks to Wang Lily's warning, many people realized that this temperature drop was no ordinary event. Wrapped in down jackets, they went to the supermarket to stock up on supplies. On the phone's weather forecast, the temperatures for the next 15 days have turned into low-temperature warnings. The news broadcast also issued an urgent report, warning of an incoming cold wave. It reminded the public to stock up on supplies and avoid going out unless necessary. Companies and schools also released work and school suspension notices overnight. The temperature continued to drop, finally stabilizing at -50 degrees Celsius around 4 a.m. On short video platforms, people with IP addresses in Hainan Island posted videos of heavy snowfall in the area. In the northeastern provinces, hailstones as large as eggs fell directly from the sky. Cars parked on the roadside were not spared. Passers-by who ventured out to stock up on supplies fell to the ground under the assault of the hailstones, unable to get back up. The worst off are those stranded on highways, trains, and planes. Trains are halted, flights are grounded, and countless reports of plane crashes fill the news broadcasts. Nationwide, the sharp drop in temperature is accompanied by snowfall. Every visible object on the ground is blanketed in white snow. The pure white snow now sent a chill through everyone's heart. But I knew, this was only the beginning. If we didn't go out to look for supplies on this day, it would only get harder from here. My parents felt deeply distressed watching the disaster scenes broadcast on the news. They could sit by the fireplace and enjoy hot milk tea, all thanks to their daughter. The air raid shelter had excellent ventilation. Even when burning charcoal for warmth, there was no risk of carbon monoxide poisoning. My mother handed me a jewelry box, packed full of gold ornaments. "Sweetheart, these are the dowry your father and I have saved for you every year since you were born, along with all our family's savings. No matter what happens, gold is always a hard currency. You must take good care of it." My parents had always planned carefully for my future. I held the heavy jewelry box in my hands, cradled in my mother's arms. The outdoor temperature had already dropped to -43 degrees Celsius, while the indoor temperature could still be maintained at around 10 degrees Celsius. I prepared 2 more thick quilts for my parents. None of us dared to sleep tonight. In the end, it was only after I acted cute and pleaded that my parents agreed to go back to the bedroom to rest. The backup power in the bomb shelter was running low, and we all knew it wasn't yet time to turn on the air conditioning. It snowed heavily all night, and many residential property management teams arranged for residents to start shoveling snow. Last night, I covered the area near the entrance and ventilation shafts with tarpaulin. As soon as I touched the tarpaulin, I could collect all the snow into the pocket dimension. The melted snow can also be used to flush toilets and water crops. Most importantly, it saves the labor of a family of 3. I put on my down jacket, hat, gloves, and goggles, and went out to collect the snow. Even so, stepping outside still felt a bone-penetrating cold. The sound of me opening the door was very faint, yet my parents were still startled awake from their sleep. I quickly closed the door after finishing my tasks. But having been outside for just a moment, the cold clinging to my clothes had already condensed into moisture. My parents told me to go rest, and the 2 of them started bustling about in the kitchen. Mom planned to make more dough and prepare some steamed buns and dumplings, as well as fresh noodles, to store in the freezer for later. As the weather gets colder, when she doesn't feel like cooking, she can just take them out to eat. My parents considered all the frozen food I had stockpiled to be processed convenience meals, which they think are unhealthy. Dad went to the planting area to grow baby bok choy and lettuce. and uses the outer old leaves of the cabbage to feed the rabbits. The quails are very productive. On the very first day in their new home, they laid 2 eggs. After keeping watch all night, I let my guard down and fell into a deep, comfortable sleep on the soft, warm bed. When I woke up, it was already 1 in the afternoon. The buns, with filling prepared by my father and wrapped by my mother, were steaming on the bamboo steamer, emitting an enticing aroma. I washed my hands clean, picked up a hot bun, and stuffed it into my mouth. The thin skin, generous filling, and rich juices, it was still my favorite cumin onion beef filling. In the previous life, I was trapped in a hotel. To survive, I could only drink melted snow to stave off hunger. Happiness is largely a matter of contrast. After the meal, Dad went to the monitoring room for his shift, while Mom and I followed a video on the tablet to learn a gentle 8-movement exercise routine. To survive the apocalypse, you must have a healthy body. At noon, we had a pot of braised spare ribs and chicken, with side dishes including potatoes, dried beans, and old tofu. The tofu was soaked in the rich broth, and the potatoes were soft and sticky. Just as I was about to take a nap, I saw through the surveillance camera a group of people lingering near the air raid shelter. This family must know something. That's why they spent extra money to build a shelter. I see the gate is closed, so there must be someone inside. The bald middle-aged man speaking was the renovation worker from 2 days ago. With him were several other workers and their accompanying family members. Each one was as sturdy as a bear. They all lived in the town at the foot of the mountain. After the sudden temperature drop yesterday, his son told him that an online prophecy master had revealed the coming of the apocalypse. They had little food at home and no proper winter supplies. His son had argued that once the utilities and internet failed, desperation would lead to looting and murder. The bald man had therefore decided to seize this well-stocked shelter before anyone else caught on. The bald man recalled that during the construction, the couple who came to supervise accidentally let slip that they still had a daughter. There could be no more than 3 people in the shelter. He had brought over 20 people, and they've brought professional door-breaking tools. As long as they break in, they can claim the place as their own. Dad has sharp eyes and recognizes the bald man from the surveillance footage. Ching. He was one of the workers who came for construction the day before yesterday. I never expected that in just 1 day, he would bring so many people to our doorstep. Mom held my hand worriedly, her face filled with anxiety. What should we do? If they kept a spare key during the renovation, we'd be in danger. I opened the ventilation window left on the door, took out a slingshot from the space, gripped a steel ball bearing, and aimed at the bald man. Then I let go, shooting it at a tree half a meter away from him. First warning. If he pulls his men back, I don't want to resort to violence in front of my parents. Unexpectedly, the bald man was fearless. Seeing that their cover was blown, he directly called over the workers with him to prepare to force the door open. I had piled up the snow to block the door, but it ended up making things easier for them. Since they're so eager to die, I'll grant their wish. The 4 of them walked to the door, opened the toolbox, and began to dismantle it. Through the door's surveillance camera, I saw them leaning against the door, each making contact with its surface. With a mere thought, I pulled the 4 of them into my space through the iron door, then instantly released their corpses. Seeing this move of mine, my parents were so tense they started to stutter. Ching, when Mom and Dad hold you in the future, you need to control your thoughts. I felt a bit helpless. Even when my own daughter killed someone right in front of them, they didn't blame me for being cold-blooded. Dad could tell what I was thinking and became serious. My precious daughter, this is the end of the world, and none of us can afford to be overly compassionate. If you hadn't acted, once they broke in, they wouldn't have spared us either. Your mother and I won't blame you. Do you understand? Father's broad hand stroked my head as he earnestly guided me. The women and children still crouching in the outer circle, waiting for the men to break down the door, rubbed their eyes in disbelief. Had they just been hallucinating? Why does it feel like my husband just disappeared for a second and then suddenly collapsed? Spooky. Could it be that some kind of demon lives in there? A group of people shoved each other, trying to send someone over to check if the bald guy was dead. I have already given them a chance. But they did not cherish it. Several abandoned trucks were released from the space and crashed into the crowded area. Cries of anguish rang out continuously until the sounds grew weaker and weaker. I opened the door and put the toolbox back into the space. No one went back to check on the person crushed by the truck. They were all elderly, children, and women, stranded in the freezing snow. Wounded, there was no way they could survive. In the following days, the temperature dropped even lower. Even Cheong Island reached -60 degrees Celsius. The snowfall is lasting longer and longer, with snow accumulating faster than people can shovel it away. Most households don't have goggles, and more people are suffering from snow blindness. The authorities acted quickly, opening many rescue shelters by the third day of the major temperature drop. However, the heavy snow has blocked the roads. What used to be a half-day drive now takes at least half a month on foot, especially for those traveling with their families. Anyone who reached a shelter alive was lucky. It made me understand why exile to the frozen frontier had once been considered such a brutal sentence. Before the internet collapsed completely, a blogger whose bio read Young Master of the Heavenly Palace and whose profile picture was blank uploaded a video to the website. The video was an extravagant display of wealth. A warm fire crackled in the fireplace of a palatial villa. At a time when everyone is short on food, the young master feeds leftover steak to the dogs. He lounged in a vast heated pool while bikini-clad models fed him grapes. At the end, the young master seemed unsatisfied and went down to the basement, revealing a warehouse fully stocked with supplies. 5 minutes after the video was posted, the account was deleted, but netizens did not lose their memory. Someone recorded the screen and saved it, publicly collecting information about the blogger online. Many hands make light work. In less than an hour, the young master's home address and background were completely exposed. The comments section was filled with netizens shouting that they wanted to raid his house for supplies. This scared off those bloggers who had been subtly posting pictures and texts with a sense of superiority, as they deleted their accounts and fled overnight. No matter the environment, there will always be such foolish people. No plan by a band of thugs could be as destructive as one rich fool's moment of vanity. I have to say, netizens are incredibly efficient. The next morning, over 2,000 people spontaneously gathered and surrounded the young master's villa. More people kept arriving one after another. Some of them were holding axes, others carried hammers and chainsaws, and a few even had compound bows. When the villa's security system activated and the electric fence powered on, it only managed to electrocute and knock out a few people, while those breaking down the walls behind were wearing insulated gloves. Guards in the watchtowers inside the walls kept firing guns and shooting arrows, trying to drive back the rioters. But there were simply too many people. The bodyguard had run out of bullets, yet the crowd showed no sign of thinning. It was as if they could never be killed off. Taking advantage of the bodyguard reloading, the man with the compound bow shot an arrow straight through his head. This boosted the mob's morale. Some chopped down trees by the roadside, lit fires to dry out the wood, and made makeshift ladders. The first person inside opened the villa's main gate, and then everyone surged forward. When they stormed into the villa, they happened to see a group of richly dressed people packing gold bars, preparing to escape through an underground passage. The mob was boiling with excitement, their eyes turning bloodshot at that moment. Why should they have to work their entire lives and still not earn even a fraction of what these people had? And the son they shielded behind them was born to enjoy wealth and luxury. The entire family was hacked beyond recognition, including the dog that appeared in the video. Perhaps it's the extreme cold apocalypse, with no one going to work, allowing such bloody videos to be uploaded to the platform. I looked at the bowl of savory tofu pudding drenched in red chili oil, finding it hard to take a bite. After half a month of extreme cold, water and electricity had failed in most areas. The number of refugees taken in by official bases has completely exceeded reasonable limits. In a small shelter of just over 30 square meters, 20 people eat and sleep inside. The authorities announced that they have suspended the acceptance of refugees, but they promised to send troops to airdrop supplies, urging people not to give up hope. My parents and I live in a spacious bomb shelter, where we eat and drink our fill every day and just sleep. A few clueless people tried to target us, but I took them all into my space. I dumped all the bodies along the road to the shelter. Those with any sense would see them and take a detour. Until March of the following year, the extreme cold still raged on. My mom used to be a history teacher. Worried she might get bored, I took out a book I had picked up while stocking up on supplies. To my surprise, my mom became completely obsessed with time travel novels. She scolded the author for disrespecting history, yet she was fully immersed in the story, her heart aching for the heroine's suffering. My usually tough dad, on the other hand, seemed a bit downcast. I pulled out the skiing gear from the space and occasionally went skiing with my dad. The farming area inside the bomb shelter had already taken shape. There were hydroponic baby bok choy, melons, and tomatoes, as well as cabbage and potatoes growing vigorously in the soil. For meat, rabbits kept breeding, producing over 70 baby rabbits within 6 months. Dad made them into spicy rabbit cubes to go with his drinks. We had stocked up enough supplies, so our family didn't skimp on food. For breakfast, we had steamed buns or small wontons, and drank soy milk. For lunch, it was the standard home-style stir-fry, 4 dishes and a soup. In the afternoon, we could have dessert and milk tea. A life where you don't have to go to work and can reasonably stay at home is simply too good for a homebody. On April 28th, the temperature finally started to rise. In just 2 days, it warmed up from -50°C back to 0°C. On the third day, the temperature soared directly to 30°C. The snow melted rapidly, and the country began a new round of extreme heat and flooding. As if the end times had arrived, the urban drainage system was completely overwhelmed, with low-lying residential areas directly submerged, and villages on low terrain turned into vast oceans. My parents and I swapped heavy blankets for cool mats, took off our down jackets, and put on short sleeves. When it's cold, you can still keep warm by layering up, but when it gets hot, no matter how little you wear, you still feel sweltering. Even leftover food has to be stored in the fridge, or it will spoil by the end of the day. When the temperature outside the bomb shelter reaches 50°C, I sit in the air conditioning, sipping the iced mung bean soup my mom made to beat the heat. High temperatures cause various plants and animals to decay, while floods spread viruses to different places. Clean drinking water has become the most sought-after resource. A person can endure hunger, but without water, they cannot survive more than 7 days, especially in high temperatures. Severe dehydration can occur after just 3 days without water. Many survivors who endured the extreme cold did not make it. Fortunately, it seemed that the heavens did not intend to wipe out humanity entirely. The scorching doomsday lasted only a month before temperatures returned to normal levels. The authorities began large-scale efforts to retrieve bodies, carry out disinfection, and search for survivors. The disaster brought survivors and relief workers together in a remarkable collective effort. In August, all cities at the 3rd tier and above completed disinfection and post-disaster reconstruction. Every survivor who lived through it can apply for a housing unit. My parents and I, due to our active participation in disaster relief, were directly allocated a large flat in downtown Jingcheng.